So the first thing I've put this up on the screen. Rather than just hearing me talk in the background, but from our point of view, from Futurecity's point of view, these are the core things for us. The high street, as we know it, we would say is disappearing. The idea of a row of shops. The only row of shops that really seem to work now are in very, very rich areas. In my article, I talked about Greenwich, where there's a cheese shop, fish shop, butchers, and so on, but it's extremely expensive. So the natural sense of a row of shops is disappearing. And we're seeing behaviours are changing. The old we're leaving, and the young are coming through, and they're technology driven, and they're nomadic, and they have less loyalty to things. So the kind of behaviour of how we work is going to change. That's even pre-COVID. Collaboration and partnerships are key, because what we're beginning to realise is now that no one can do anything alone. And it's interesting, isn't it? If you look at the shopping centres that we have now, what they did do was offered a multiple choice. It was warm, it was safe. You didn't get rained, and we enjoyed that experience. And the high street, as a complete opposite, gradually offered fragmented ownership, individual owners, absentee landlords, fund managed portfolios. This idea that no one owns everything, so it's very hard to make major changes. So some of the things we've been looking at, and we're trying to look at more radical ideas, is can you connect up all the landlords under one ownership? Because if you're going to make big changes in the high street, it's not enough to do individual things. If I was a butcher and I was a family-owned business and I could see someone next door getting free rent while I'm struggling to pay it, I'm not sure I'm going to be very happy. Similarly, if I want to make a sweeping idea of throughout the high street, how do I get all of these individuals under one roof? So we're seeing councils like in BasildON taking quite a radical financial investment. There's leadership. As Neil mentioned, about sort of charismatic leaders now taking responsibility. So there may be some issues here about local authorities buying out or even issuing CPOs on failing high streets. A radical thing would be to buy the high street and to start again. And COVID-19, as an interesting thing that's happened, I think, is it's challenged the idea of grouping together in one place. The shopping mall being herded into a space. So ironically, being outside, being in the high street, suddenly becomes perhaps an interesting proposition. There's elements that are free, you can move, you can cycle, there's fresh air. And there's in the more interesting areas, you've got history and heritage and so on. And then the other thing really is this business improvement districts. Now, they're of a scale, but is there an idea here for a smaller version that again offers some form of joined up approach? I'm just intersecting some of these with slides. This is Showfields. It actually brands itself as the most interesting store in the world. It's a 4-story retail concept. Has 100 stores going direct to the customer, and free co-working space and garden again with free Wi-Fi. So are there radical ideas that can be brought into the high street in terms of grouping together? I think briefly, technology offers undreamed of visibility. Amazon, Airbnb, and other virtual businesses also need interaction. So experiences can create brand loyalty, which is what Apple have done. And then within that, the ideas around arts and culture is not about art for art's sake, but it's about offering identity and differentiation and originality. So this is a big deal. And I think local communities, particularly now, are important because they've got social media, so they can make their voices heard. And then just some very quick, simple ideas. The pub replaced by the co-working centre for the stay-at-homes, of which there's going to be a lot after this, with we being one of them. Spaces for lifelong learning, social services re-engaging, cultural organisations coming out of their buildings and showing their collections in the high street, in other new spaces, schools and colleges having outposts, and less retail and starting to go back to the artisan live work. As a radical idea, this is super skilling, colour the high street, fill it full of street furniture, create series of uses, make it a place that you want to inhabit. So not just the buildings, but the streets themselves. And then lastly, this idea of hybridization, barbers that offer coffee, vinyl and live music, bookshops offering food and places to meet, jewellery stores that run workshops. We're seeing a lot of this idea now of what I would call hybridization. And also, I think Neil mentioned about curation, cultural programming skills. Someone who's got the ability to program 2 years ahead to persuade organisations to behave differently. And lastly, property owners, we need to be encouraged to be more creative. There's one example I can give you where they won't use their empty spaces because when they do use it for temporary purposes, they get charged rates. And then finally, linking the high street to the street, plug and play, cycle friendly, cause related ideas, a big idea for the high street. And finally, reward those who use their shops for creative non-profit purposes. I'll just end up on this lovely little place in Piccadilly, the Santa Maria Novella, which is a little pharmaceutical, as a kind of idea of an exquisite original idea that people come from a long way away to visit. So originality and authenticity, I think, for me, the future. Thank you.